how consumers interact with brands. And a lot of that has got to do with how they interact with social media and how they use the mobile phone in that as well. So I'll take you through some of those excerpts right now. And then, thank you very much, Kay. That's my slide one, exactly at the right timing. Just to frame this study, there are many studies on social networking and on social media. Not many, though, are on a global scale. So we've actually gone to 60-something countries, more than 30,000 interviews. So this is the most robust study in its sense about consumer behaviors in the digital and mobile way. So firstly, this data point just shows that already social media is a huge part of our day. This is our time spent online. And you see that the majority of time is spent browsing social media, much more so than looking at YouTube and going through email. So it's a big important part of our days, and also these conversations that we're having online have the potential to really change people's brand decisions. We see that the majority of people agree that what other people say about brands can be trusted more than what companies are saying. So this is the validation that consumer-generated media is important for the majority of consumers. And also 50% agree that after they read this, it actually changes purchase decisions. They actually make different brand decisions after they read comments online. So it seems like an area we want to be a part of as brands. But the interesting thing is, and here's a nice contradiction or a paradox we found in the study. If you ask people's openness to brands entering that space, entering the Facebook space, the social networking space, they say two things. They say it's a place where I want to learn about brands, so people are quite open to it. But they also say a place where I don't want to be bothered by brands. So actually, we looked at these, they're the same people saying essentially two things. So it's very important to realize what's behind this, and if you move to the next slide, Kay, then you'll see what that's really about. People really want to interact with brands, but it has to be on their agenda. So it has to be when there is a certain benefit for them and when there's a certain value exchange happening. And these are the reasons by which people are interested to interact with brands. And there's kind of three broad reasons for it. Either there's something in it for them, you give away prices or coupons or vouchers, or it is a consumer-led initiative to find out more about a product or a brand. So people want to do further research, and therefore it's important that you actually are ready with your social networking sites, profiles and websites to answer to that point, to quickly access product information or product comparisons. Just the last one on there is on the last reason to interact with a brand online. That's really something that some of the luxury brands aspire to, and in many cases also reach that. When people want to put that Facebook like to your brands because they want to show their friends that they like this brand. And these are much more aspirational brands that emotional need state works for. Yep, just the next one. So now the Mo coming in here, this is the mobility age. Yeah, we all now have mobile phones, and I mean, as TNS, we've been tracking tech device penetration for many years, but the mobile phone is the first technical device that consumers have really built a relationship with. Like, we actually have an emotional connection with our phone. If we lose our phone, we actually feel pretty bad. You know, and we've asked people, if you lose your phone, what does it feel like? People in China tell us it feels like losing part of my brain. So the mobile phone has such a huge impact in our relationship then, and a relationship with devices. So another point here, why is it related to social media? Well, it really amplifies our relationship, and it amplifies the behavior and the usage of social media. Last year, 8% of people used social media on a daily basis on a mobile phone. This year, if you press next, this year that's 20% on a global level. So 20% of all of us globally accessing social media on a daily basis. This is a global number, so it includes countries with still lower penetration. But if you look at these other markets that are closer to us, Hong Kong, Singapore, Korea, those are really the markets that usually sit at the forefront, and we see very high, we almost see the majority of people accessing Facebook and similar sites on a daily basis. So next year this will be the majority, and as a brand you have to be part of that. And how do we get into the co part here, the commerce part? Now, that's where the mobile phone is actually essential in that. Social media in itself, it has the potential to bring about sales, right? Social media may make you compare products, may make you go to a store and buy products. But the mobile phone is the only tool that you bring along while shopping. When you're in the store, that's the only device that's there. So it brings social media into the path to purchase. And in Hong Kong, we see 30% now using the mobile phone while shopping. And here you see what they're doing. They're comparing prices, reading product reviews, or checking others' opinions on social networking. This is really happening already. So social networking can be as simple as, this is a true story I heard from a colleague. She took a picture of a bag in a store, sent it to a friend in California. Her friend said, please buy it for me right now, and she bought it. There you are, that's social commerce happening as we stand there. Yeah, it doesn't involve an e-commerce transaction, but that's definitely social commerce as well. So that's starting to happen, and it's enabled by the mobile phone. This two last points. One point on location-based activities, and this is the low in SoLoMoCo. Well, location-based services. It's not that people ask for location-based services. People ask for convenience. And we now finally have some real services that have a convenience factor, have a convenience utility factor. Finding restaurants, public transport schedules, finding friends, which is connected to social media as well. And to be alerted of deals and special offers. We're now really starting to see all these things happen, and this is Hong Kong data, in a way where it's really starting to move into supporting social commerce. So the convenience part is really important. So yeah, just summarizing a really SoLoMoCo. So I've talked about how social media is important, but you wouldn't have to come here to this today to know that. Location-based services bring the added benefit of convenience. I think it's important to understand that you always have to think from the consumer perspective. Consumers don't ask for SoLoMoCo, but they ask for convenience or relevance. So that's what location brings in. Mobile amplifies social media impact, and it brings it into the path to purchase. And finally, the commerce opportunities are really, if you tie all those together, are enabled by all those preceding factors. Yeah. So that's a few thoughts leading into our discussion further.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Mark. Really appreciate it. Yeah. All right. So I want to next move on to talking about, well, how do we do this? And I want to talk about if we have seen any examples in Asia, particularly in Hong Kong, of companies using SoLoMoCo in its entirety, really. That would make more sense. Or if, we were talking about earlier, if there are any examples in the US, at least I know that some of the research I was doing for this session, I did find some interesting examples I'll be more than happy to share. Just one point on that, your friend's e-commerce picture taking, I think that was interesting. I was at a brand in Landmark, and I tried to take a picture of one of the products, and they wouldn't allow me to take the picture. So they weren't sure where I'm sending that picture. So that in your case, your friend's picture thing works.
I've got another personal experience on that too. I had the same experience in an electronics store in Europe where I tried to make a product picture because I really wanted to research the product and potentially buy it later. But somebody comes to you and tells you that you can't do that. I mean, would you go back to that store?
That's a great point, right?
Probably
because
not.
That speaks to perhaps the maturity of that company and understanding of marketing, perhaps where it's going. And the question then happens is, do you let that consumer take the picture, or do you provide that tool? my background is from media technologies. I always prefer if consumers take that picture, it's much easier on companies, etc. But if we are going to do this thing to generate revenue, and customers are coming in, and and my example is very similar. I had a friend who wanted to buy a handbag for his wife, and he wanted me to go to shop and take a picture and buy it. I had a big difficulty, but that's where we are going with it.
Yeah, I do just kind of one thought to that. I do understand the retailer's perspective currently, but I don't think it's the right long-term perspective. If you looked at the data points that I showed, that the key thing people use in store right now are price comparison sites. So the retailers obviously are concerned that people with mobile phones in stores are going to check prices and then go off and buy things online for a lower price point. I don't think it's a good strategy to not allow that to happen, but I think the best strategy is for retailers to just embrace it, let people compare, and make sure that they have a different value add that they can bring to the deal that makes it more lucrative or more attractive to buy it in store at a slightly elevated price.
I think it makes sense. Chad, you and Adam, from your travel perspective, and I know you've been here 9 years in Hong Kong or Asia. All right. Have you guys seen, not in 9 years, but recently any example of SoLoMoCo example that then we can use? And I want to open this up to audience as well in terms of, are they going to any stores or businesses, whether it's B2C or B2B, and they are seeing these case studies that we can use in this session as well. But have you guys seen anything in play, whether it's about restaurants, whether it's hotels, whether it's stores? What do you see?
I can think of actually a couple of examples. From a platform perspective, Foursquare's gotten pretty significant adoption, in particular in the U.S., and I've been really impressed with some brands that have used that as a format to really kind of challenge and enhance their business model. American Express, I think, is a great example of a brand that's looked at SoLoMoCo as a way to promote themselves in a sort of vast number of restaurant and retail outlets where you're there, you're present, you check in, and you're presented with an incentive. I think that there's a tendency for a lot of brands to try to drive the commerce aspect of that. And then, of course, the check-in produces social content that's dispersed across the web. That was sort of an aspect of SoLoMoCo that we didn't really talk a lot about, which is that sort of the proximity and the experience and the desire for the consumer to then share their experience back out across the social web, which is content that is then pinned to that location. But another example is a program that we're in the process of working on for a very large retail brand that was that had the business imperative to promote their pharmacy services inside of a large retail environment. And a lot of this had to do with trying to drive healthy behavior and healthy living with their customer base, but to also make them aware of their pharmaceutical services to drive consumer transactions. And they would offer, it was sort of an integrated program where they would offer health screenings in the retail environment. If you came in and you checked into the environment, or you checked into the environment using Foursquare, you could participate in the health screening, and by checking in and by tagging yourself in terms of utilizing the health screening services, you then became eligible for other product-related discounts that were relative to health. And of course, you were sharing with your social network that you were sort of taking this step towards a healthy lifestyle. So, a kind of an example of sort of promoting the brand as a retail brand that is driving sort of healthy lifestyle and healthy choice purchases. The ability to cross-promote other products inside the retail environment. Now that you've identified the fact that you're in the retail environment, you've checked in at a health screening about, for example, heart disease. We know that we can now push product communications towards you about, for example, food items throughout the retail environment or other products that then might support your decisions around healthy living. So this idea of sort of integrated product marketing, utilizing SoLoMoCo as an opportunity. The transaction itself wasn't happening through the mobile device. It was happening in the brick and mortar retail environment.
No, I think these are all great examples, and as the global